Hey there. Today we're going to be playing some Spelunky 2. You probably already know this game for its... which is something you might remember from Spelunky 1. But this time, there's online co-op.
Alright, go to the boss, Brad.
My controller disconnected. No, please don't.
But if you haven't played the first game, Spelunky 2 is a roguelike about getting to the bottom of a series of levels. The roguelike meaning that if you die, you have to start over from the beginning. And your levels are randomly generated.
This episode sucks.
But unlike most roguelikes, there's less RPG elements and more action platformer elements. The game also excels at teaching. And I don't mean that it tells you what anything does, it usually just shows you what it does, and that showing you tends to kill you, sending you back to the first level. In most games, you might just brush past most enemies without even figuring out how they work, and the game's going to let you move on and enjoy the rest of the content. But over in Spelunky, some of this stuff is going to be a hard roadblock until you take the time to observe and figure out how some of these enemies and traps work. Once you've figured out how some of these traps work, it can become more of a fun risk-reward system on whether you want to trigger something in order to get more money. The best example of this is this ghost vase, which contains a bunch of money, but when you break it open, it also spawns in a ghost.
Alright, we go through the door. Guys, go through the door.
Now you're probably going to ask, can I just take this vase to the end? And the answer is yes, you can. The game does reward you trying to experiment and exploit its systems. But carrying around this fragile vase does have its own risks. And this game is just full of these fun little systems that I think are pretty well thought out. And they make subsequent runs so much more fun. Now all that being said, this is also a game that you can play over the internet with 4 friends in co-op. And it was actually the whole reason I bought the game was to play the co-op with my friends, something I wish a lot more games would do. I will say it does make the game a slight bit easier, but also way more chaotic and unpredictable.
Because I don't think the doctor would know. I never heard that. The doctor probably.
There's a lot to like here. There's little critters on the ground.
That's a bug! That's a bug! That is a bug!
The music is like... The last game used a lot of FM synthesizer samples that made the game have a real nostalgic feel, even if you were hearing it for the first time. And I absolutely love those tracks for that, and I appreciate that the new shop music still maintains that sound. The new soundtrack is an absolute jam in its own ways, and I appreciate that it's very dynamic, and the way it can seamlessly shift into different variations of songs, depending on what's going on in the level, which is kind of impressive. How'd they do that? And just impressed with this game in general. It's so much fun, and you should play it. I know I barely talked about the co-op, but it is a really good experience to be able to share with a friend. And there's a lot of really cool tricks you can do when you have another person with you. But I know what you guys really want to see. You want to see the shenanigans. Well, don't you worry. I've got plenty of examples of what the co-op experience is like.
I don't think we should take vase anymore. It's dangerous. Yeah.
Taking it anyways.
Okay. Got more.
Hold on.
I believe in myself. If I see a dangerous Eirik,
Wait, I got this.
It's coming. If you end up getting the game, 2 things you need to know. The hired help are absolutely useless, so you'll pretty much always want to trade Johnny Sins for a pair of Air Jordans. And please, try not to piss off the shopkeeper.
Dân dân là tại dân dân không có